Beloved chosen one, stop scrolling for a moment and listen carefully. This is not coincidence. This is divine interruption. Heaven is speaking again, yes, for the second time, and it's reaching straight into your soul. The same message that once stirred your heart is being repeated because heaven will not repeat it a third time. When heaven speaks twice, it's not because God forgot what he said, it's because you didn't yet move. You've been marked for something sacred, and this message is heaven's way of shaking the dust off your hesitation. You feel it, don't you? That quiet pull, that weight that never fully left you after the first message. The moments that keep replaying in your dreams, the signs that keep showing up when you try to convince yourself it's all just coincidence, those were not random. Heaven does not waste repetition. Every time you've said, "Maybe I'm overthinking," the Spirit whispered, "No, you're under listening. Listen closely. Chosen one, God is not angry at you, he's awakening you. He's been waiting for the moment when your heart becomes still enough to recognize his voice. That's what this is. The second sending of the same word means the window of mercy is still open, but narrowing. Heaven doesn't echo empty words, it reissues orders of destiny. You've been running on borrowed time, and grace is reaching its final call before it becomes accountability. You have felt overlooked, forgotten, or even punished for your sensitivity. But that sensitivity is the proof that you're spiritually alive. Heaven could have allowed you to go numb like the rest of the world, but instead, it gave you ears that cannot ignore divine sound. You are not crazy, you are chosen. You are not emotional, you are spiritually aware. Every trembling in your heart, every chill that runs through your spirit when the truth is spoken, is confirmation that your soul recognizes its commander's voice. As the prophet wrote in the book of Isaiah, chapter 62, verse 11, "Behold, the Lord has proclaimed to the ends of the earth, say to the daughter of Zion, see, your Savior comes, his reward is with him, and his recompense accompanies him." This is what's happening right now. Your Savior is calling again. Heaven is saying, I haven't changed my mind about you. You might have delayed, doubted, or hidden, but God's plan remains intact. The message is the same, but the urgency has intensified. What once felt like a whisper has now become a trumpet blast in your spirit. You can feel that divine pressure that says, move now. Do not resist it. Every second of hesitation gives space for darkness to whisper lies. You are not too late. You are not too broken. You are exactly where heaven wants you to stand when this second message finds you. This is your moment to realign, to surrender, to say, yes, Lord, I hear you this time. Let your obedience speak louder than your excuses. Heaven is repeating itself because your calling is too critical to be lost in delay. Stand up in your spirit. Breathe in grace again. Heaven's eyes are on you, and the same angels that carried this message before are standing beside you now, waiting for your yes. Chosen one, if your heart is burning as you read this, it means heaven has found you again. Don't silence that fire, feed it. Comment 111 below as your prophetic act, declaring, I hear heaven's second call. Then, like, share, and subscribe so this word can awaken every other chosen one still sleeping in the shadows. Heaven is moving through this moment, do not let it pass. You felt it before. Chosen one. The first time heaven whispered your name, something deep inside of you awakened. You didn't have the words for it, but your spirit trembled. You were walking through an ordinary day, maybe scrolling, maybe driving, maybe crying quietly somewhere you thought no one saw, but heaven did. A breeze passed differently, a sentence landed harder than usual, or a stranger's voice felt like prophecy. That was not your imagination. That was the first sending of this message. You told yourself it was nothing, yet it wouldn't leave. It kept returning at odd hours, and when the world was silent and your thoughts were loud, you'd feel that magnetic pull inside your chest, that tug towards something greater, something you couldn't name but couldn't deny. That was heaven beginning to speak. But because the noise of life surrounded you, you mistook divine urgency for emotional confusion. You didn't realize that heaven had just called your name in its original language, spirit to spirit. There are moments when God speaks once, and that one word is enough to change generations. But sometimes, in His mercy, He repeats Himself. He gives reminders through patterns, through people, through repeated scriptures, through dreams that replay scenes you thought were meaningless. He sends signals in silence, stirring you when everyone else sleeps. That first time, your heart heard, but your mind dismissed it. Still, heaven waited. And now, for the second time, that same pulse returns, stronger, clearer, louder. Do you remember that dream you couldn't shake? The one that made no sense but left a residue of holiness on your soul? Or that song you couldn't stop playing because it felt like it knew something about you that you didn't yet understand? Those were not random coincidences. They were divine breadcrumbs leading you back to the path you almost abandoned. Heaven never sends confusion, it sends reminders. You thought you missed your chance, but you didn't. What you felt was a preview, a holy rehearsal for this moment right now. You see, God's timing is perfect. He speaks in cycles, not because He is repetitive, but because He operates in revelation. Each word you ignored the first time has matured in power, waiting for your heart to finally become fertile ground. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 33, verse 3. Call to me and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know. That's what heaven was trying to do before draw you into conversation. Not to shame you, but to invite you. When God speaks twice, He is not frustrated. He is merciful. The second call is proof that your destiny still stands unshaken. The voice you're hearing again isn't chasing you to punish, it's chasing you to position. You are not being haunted by the past. You are being pursued by purpose. Heaven has seen how you fought through storms that tried to break your faith. Every unanswered prayer, every closed door, every betrayal, none of it was wasted. Those moments tuned your hearing so that when this second message came, you would recognize it immediately. What once sounded distant now feels undeniable. This is how heaven works. It waits for the soil of your heart to soften through pain, so the second seed can take root where the first only rested. Every time you thought you lost your way, you were actually walking toward this point of recognition. Chosen one. You felt it before and now, you know. This isn't new. It's continuation. Heaven didn't forget what it said. It simply waited for you to be ready to hear it again. And now, that readiness has come. Every delay, every closed door, every strange silence, it wasn't punishment. Chosen one. It was a signal. Heaven communicates differently than the world does. When heaven wants your attention, it doesn't always send thunder or fire. Sometimes, it sends nothing. Silence can be the loudest sound in the kingdom. You've wondered why things suddenly stopped working, why people disappeared, why your plans collapsed just as they seemed ready to succeed. But that was not the enemy. That was God intercepting your momentum before it carried you out of alignment. You see, the first message came like a whisper, but this second one comes through patterns. Heaven is strategic. It repeats in rhythm until revelation takes root. Every closed opportunity, every restless night, Every moment where you felt spiritually suspended, those were divine notifications. You thought you were being delayed, but you were actually being decoded. Heaven was testing your hearing. Would you still trust the silence when you couldn't trace the sound? According to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. You are being redirected, not rejected. Every red light was a sacred barrier protecting you from a premature yes. When you tried to push forward and it didn't work, that was heaven saying, "Not yet." When you reached out and no one responded, heaven said, "Listen instead." The repeated interruptions were actually divine invitations. God was not withholding, he was orchestrating. Chosen one. Pause for a moment and think about how many times recently you've said, "I don't understand what's happening." That confusion wasn't failure, it was the sound of heaven rearranging your timeline. The same voice that spoke to you before is now using circumstances as language. Every delay has been a prophetic conversation between heaven and your destiny. You are not being punished for disobedience. You are being prepared for acceleration. The silence is about to break. But before it does, heaven needs your full attention. You've been so used to reacting to the visible that you forgot how to discern the invisible. That's why heaven repeats itself to train your sensitivity. When the Holy Spirit begins to repeat a message, it means the season is about to shift. You are standing at the threshold between revelation and manifestation. What God once whispered in private is about to be displayed in public, but only for those who listen through the delay. You are one of them. You didn't quit, even when you wanted to. You stayed sensitive, even when others mocked your sensitivity. That's why heaven chose to speak again. Now it's time to respond, not with fear, not with doubt, but with recognition. This second message isn't a coincidence crossing your feed, it's divine timing reaching your spirit. Heaven has confirmed it through patterns, silence, and now through this very word. Comment "I'm listening" below. Say it not as a gesture for others to see, but as a covenant between you and heaven. When you write it, it's not about engagement, it's about alignment. It's you declaring, "God, I recognize the repeated signal. I hear you the second time." That single sentence carries power because obedience begins in acknowledgement. And the moment you acknowledge heaven's voice, everything around you begins to realign. The silence will soon break, but heaven needed to make sure your spirit was tuned first. Now it is. You are not crazy. Chosen one. You have felt things that others cannot feel, seen signs that others overlook, carried burdens that no one around you could explain. And you began to wonder if something was wrong with you. But heaven wants you to know this sensitivity to the Spirit is not weakness, it is evidence of divine selection. You have been hearing what heaven is saying beneath the noise of the world. That weight you feel, that inner trembling that visits you at unpredictable hours, that is not anxiety, it is divine urgency moving through a human vessel. There are moments when spiritual pressure feels like chaos, when you wake in the middle of the night sensing something heavy in the atmosphere, or when your heart starts racing without reason. You thought it was fear, but it was awareness. You are not losing your mind, you are gaining your sight. Heaven is teaching you the language of discernment, and that language is rarely calm. The trembling, the tears, the restlessness. These are your training grounds. The world cannot interpret your sensitivity because it does not know the source that speaks to you. People may have said, "You're overreacting," or "You're imagining things." But heaven nods and says, "You're hearing correctly." When you sense something shifting before it happens, That's not paranoia, it's prophecy. God placed an antenna in your soul that catches the frequencies of coming seasons, what others call instability. Heaven calls intercession. The Apostle Paul reminds us in his first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 2, verse 14, "The natural man does not accept the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness to him, and he cannot understand them, because they are spiritually discerned." You have been spiritually discerning things far ahead of time, and that's why you felt out of place. You often enter rooms where your spirit feels the unseen tension before anyone speaks. That is not a curse, it's a calling. You were created to feel what heaven feels. You carry a spiritual radar designed to sense both danger and destiny before they manifest. When your heart feels heavy for no reason, it's usually because heaven is assigning you to pray, to stand in the gap for someone who doesn't yet know they're under attack. This is why the enemy tries to convince you that you're unstable. If he can label your discernment as disorder, he can silence your prophetic accuracy. But heaven is breaking that lie right now. The very sensitivity that made you doubt yourself is the proof of your appointment. You are not crazy for crying when others laugh. You are not weak for pausing when others rush. You are tuned to frequencies they don't hear. Heaven trusts you with atmospheres. You walk into places and spiritual climates respond. Darkness notices your arrival before people do because the light you carry disrupts every unholy agenda. That tension you feel in certain environments is not anxiety. It's the clash between light and darkness. Chosen one. You have been trained in secret. The world sees only the trembling, but heaven sees the transformation. Each time your heart broke under the pressure of divine awareness, new authority was being born within you. You are not meant to be ordinary, and that difference will never disappear. It is not there to torment you, it's there to remind you that you belong to a different kingdom. The shaking is ending soon. The same spirit that stirred you is now settling you. You will learn to rest inside revelation, to move with confidence in what you discern. Heaven is not trying to frighten you, it is refining you. And the next time you feel that weight, you will not call it anxiety, you will call it assignment. There is a pattern in the way heaven moves. Chosen one. God never acts without first revealing, never reveals without first warning, and never warns without first loving. You stand inside that pattern now between mercy's repetition and destiny's arrival. This is not the end of something, it's the divine pause before fulfillment. From the beginning of time, heaven has always spoken twice before the shift, once to awaken and again to confirm. It happened to Samuel in the temple when he thought Eli was calling him. It happened to Peter on the rooftop when God showed him the same vision 3 times. It happened to Pharaoh in Egypt when Joseph said the repeated dream meant the matter is firmly decided by God. Repetition is heaven's signature when something is about to become real. The Spirit is saying, pay attention to the rhythm of divine repetition. It is not delay, it is confirmation. You are standing on holy ground between spoken and manifested. Heaven is echoing because the promise is about to materialize. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 19. I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life, so that you and your children may live. This second message is an invitation to choose again. Not out of fear, but out of love. You are being given the chance to stand in full awareness of who you are and who sent you. The repeated call isn't heaven's impatience, it's heaven's mercy. And while you hear this, pause and breathe. If this message has found you, it means you are part of a divine relay heaven passes light through human hearts. Each time you choose to like or share, it's not just a digital gesture, It's you lifting your candle so another wandering soul can see the glow. When you subscribe, you're not joining a channel, you're joining a current of light that keeps moving through time. Now, if this word has spoken life into you, consider this: every drop of oil that flows from this space comes from vessels who choose to pour back in. Imagine it like a garden of lamps. Each small offering is a flame placed gently into the night. If you ever feel led to donate, do it not as an obligation, but as someone who adds one more spark to keep the fire alive. Donations here are never demanded. They are voluntary flames, each one saying, "Let there be light for the next soul." Your support, whether by sharing, subscribing, or giving, becomes a living prayer that this message keeps reaching those still walking through darkness. Heaven measures not the size of the gift, but the sincerity of the heart that gives it. So, beloved, if your spirit stirs like this message, share it with another seeker. Subscribe to stay near the flame. And if your heart whispers, donate as worship, not duty. You are not keeping a light alive for me, you are keeping it alive for the one who will need it tomorrow. You are part of something sacred. Heaven is repeating its message, and now it moves through your hands, your actions, your willingness. The same God who spoke twice to awaken you will now speak through you to awaken others. And somewhere, unseen, another heart will awaken because your small act carried heaven's echo forward. That is how light travels from one obedient soul to another. Heaven watches quietly, smiling, as your flame joins the eternal chorus of those who heard twice and finally said yes to destiny's call. You tried to move on, chosen one. You told yourself it was just a phase, that the first calling was an emotional season, not a spiritual one. You buried the feeling under work, under noise, under distraction, but heaven never forgot. Every time you tried to escape the pull, grace followed you. You felt it in songs that made you cry for no reason, in quiet moments that brought memories of purpose flooding back. You have been marked, and no amount of hiding can erase divine ink. There's a reason it feels like heaven keeps chasing you. The truth is, heaven doesn't lose track of those it calls, it waits. Like a shepherd who counts the 99 and notices the one missing. Heaven has been circling your steps. You wandered into places that promised peace but delivered exhaustion. You told yourself, "I just need to start over," yet no matter where you went, the same whisper found you. Come back. You've tried to silence the inner voice, to blend in again, to live a life that looks normal. But you are not normal. You never were. You carry the residue of divine purpose, and no disguise can cover that glow. Even in your lowest moments, the mark remains. That's why darkness targeted you early. It saw what you'd carry later. Heaven has preserved your name, even when you tried to erase it. We find in the book of Psalms, chapter 139, verse 10. Even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. No distance is too far for the voice of God to find you. Every attempt to escape has only led you back to Him. The second message isn't heaven being disappointed, it's heaven being devoted. You can't outwalk mercy. You can't outrun your own calling. Wherever you go, heaven follows because your assignment still breathes. Remember the moments when peace vanished, the moment you tried to settle for less. That wasn't punishment, it was protection. God refuses to let you feel comfortable in counterfeit spaces. You were made for something that requires divine air to breathe, and Earth's imitation will always suffocate you. The tension you feel when you try to move on is the resistance of purpose refusing to die. Chosen one, you have been pursued by love, not by wrath. God is not chasing you to corner you. He's chasing you to crown you. He doesn't want your perfection, He wants your permission. Heaven is saying, I don't need you to fix yourself, I just need you to stop running. Every second of resistance delays restoration. But even your delay hasn't disqualified you. It has only deepened your testimony. And now heaven stands once again before your spirit, repeating what it said before, but this time with greater tenderness. Come home. Your story isn't over, it's restarting. The same voice that called you the first time now calls you again, but with multiplied mercy. If as you read this, something within you stirs, that's not emotion, it's recognition. The same spirit that found you before is calling again. Let your heart answer, even quietly. Comment 444 below. It's not a number, it's a signal to heaven. It says, I hear you calling again, and this time I'm not running. When you write it, you're not performing, you're responding. It's the smallest act with the loudest echo. Heaven doesn't need volume, it needs sincerity. One whispered yes can realign everything. Heaven has not stopped calling your name, chosen one, and it never will until you stand exactly where you were meant to shine. There is a holy reason it had to be you. Chosen one. You have asked God more times than you can count. Why me? Why this pain? Why this weight? You've looked at others who seemed to walk in peace while you carried storms inside your soul. But heaven answers softly, because what you carry requires depth, and depth is carved by pain. Heaven never chooses the easily impressed. It chooses the deeply refined. You were selected in suffering, shaped in silence, and anointed in rejection. The things that hurt you were never random, they were instruments. Every heartbreak, every closed door, every season of loneliness was a hammer in the hand of the potter. You were being shaped for something bigger than comfort. The wounds that once felt fatal became the cracks through which light now pours. You wondered why God allowed you to walk through places where love failed you and people misunderstood you. But every misunderstanding trained you to listen to heaven's approval over human applause. Every betrayal taught you to anchor your worth in something unshakable. You see, heaven was not punishing you. It was preparing you for authority that cannot be bought, borrowed, or broken. The Apostle Paul wrote in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 17, For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. That's the mystery of divine preparation. The pain that was meant to destroy you became the very platform that will reveal you. God uses broken soil to grow holy fruit. The crushing was never cruelty. It was cultivation. Your tears watered the ground where your calling would later bloom. There were days when you wanted to quit, when you said, if this is what being chosen feels like, I don't want it. But heaven smiled, knowing that endurance was quietly forming strength in you. You were never abandoned in those moments you were observed. Every prayer you thought vanished in silence became a building block in your unseen foundation. Chosen one. Heaven does not waste experience. Every failure you regret is a classroom. Every scar on your heart is a credential in spiritual authority. That's why your story carries power. It's not theory. It's testimony. Others may have studied faith, but you have survived it. That survival becomes your certification to speak life into those who are still fighting for theirs. And that's why it had to be you. Heaven needed someone who understood both pain and purpose. Someone who could minister to wounds not with pity but with wisdom. Someone who could walk through fire and still carry water for others. You are that one. You are not chosen because you are perfect. You are chosen because you endured what would have destroyed others and still kept your heart tender enough to hear God. The day will come when everything makes sense, the nights you cried, the prayers that seemed unanswered, the battles you thought you lost. You will look back and realize that heaven was writing chapters while you were only seeing sentences. Your life is not a tragedy, it's a prophecy unfolding slowly. And so, even now, when you still feel the ache of old wounds, remember pain is temporary, but the purpose it births is eternal. Heaven doesn't waste what it refines. You are the living proof that fire can purify without consuming. You are the vessel that walked through ashes but came out carrying oil. Chosen one. That is why it had to be you. The story you survived will soon become someone else's survival guide. The second sound of the trumpet has begun to echo. Chosen one. You can feel it even if no one else around you can. The air itself feels charged, as if creation is holding its breath, waiting for your obedience. This is not imagination, it is acceleration. The first trumpet was a whisper, a call to awaken. But this second sound, it is not asking, it is commanding. There comes a time in every chosen life when heaven moves from invitation to instruction. You have entered that moment. The trumpet of heaven doesn't sound to entertain, it sounds to mobilize. Something in the unseen has shifted. The angelic realm is on the move, and your spirit can sense the urgency. Every delay you once excused has expired. You can no longer negotiate obedience. The sound of heaven has changed its tone. When heaven blows the trumpet twice, it is announcing both war and release. War against what has been holding you, and release into what you were born for. The resistance you feel is not just emotional, it is spiritual. Darkness always trembles when obedience begins to rise. That is why lately you felt the tension increase. The distractions multiply, the fatigue grows stronger. It's because your breakthrough is near. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 31, "And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather his chosen from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other." This is the season of gathering. The second trumpet doesn't call the sleeping, it calls the awakened. It summons those who have heard before and are now ready to respond. You have been through your wilderness, your refining, your silence. Now heaven says, move. Every instruction you once ignored will now echo louder until you obey. Obedience in this hour is not about impressing God, it's about alignment. The trumpet doesn't care about emotion, it calls for movement. When the sound reaches your spirit, hesitation becomes rebellion. God is not angry with your slowness, he is patient. But the time for patience is giving way to purpose. The sound is the signal that mercy is turning into momentum. You might not know what step to take first. That's all right. The sound itself will guide you. When the priests carried the Ark of the Covenant across the Jordan, the waters didn't part until their feet touched the river. That's how obedience works. It opens the way as you move. You cannot wait to see the miracle before you take the step. The trumpet calls for faith in motion. Heaven is not asking you to run blindly. It is asking you to walk boldly. You don't need to know the full path, just take the next faithful step. Every act of obedience sends a vibration through the spiritual atmosphere, signaling to heaven that the chosen have heard. And as the second trumpet continues to sound, you will notice divine acceleration. Doors that were stuck will open easily. Conversations that once drained you will suddenly end peacefully. Paths that were invisible will reveal themselves like footprints of light. This is the rhythm of divine movement. Chosen one, the trumpet has sounded again. This is not a rehearsal. This is not another round of waiting. This is the activation moment heaven spoke of long ago. The same God who spoke in whispers before is now speaking in thunder. You do not have to be fearless, only faithful. The sound does not wait for perfection, it waits for response. Step forward, for the second trumpet is not calling you to try, it is calling you to begin. The war in the invisible has intensified. Chosen one, you can feel it even when your world looks calm. Something in your spirit senses the pressure, the unseen resistance, the heaviness that cannot be explained. It's because heaven has begun to move, and darkness is trying to block what's coming. The moment you started awakening, spiritual attention shifted toward you. Your obedience alarms the enemy because it announces the end of his influence in your territory. Do not be surprised by the sudden waves of weariness, confusion, or distraction. These are not random emotions, they are counterattacks. When light begins to rise, darkness becomes desperate. The invisible war around you is not about who you used to be. It's about who you are becoming. Every chosen one faces this season a collision between purpose and opposition. But remember, no war is ever fought without heaven already having declared the victory. The Apostle Paul wrote in the letter to the Ephesians chapter 6, verse 13, "Therefore take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand." To stand, that is your assignment right now. You don't have to fight with fear. You fight by standing. Every prayer you whisper, every temptation you resist, every tear you refuse to surrender to despair is an act of war. You are not powerless. You are armed with truth, surrounded by angels and covered by grace. The battle is not evidence that God left you. It's proof that you've entered the front line. Sometimes the heaviest attacks come right before the greatest release. The closer you are to breakthrough, the louder the battle becomes. But don't mistake noise for defeat. The enemy screams loudest when he's losing ground. You've felt that intensity lately, haven't you? The strange fatigue, the spiritual fog, the sudden doubts, they are signs that your light has started to disturb what once felt comfortable in the dark. Chosen one, remember this: you carry a light that cannot be extinguished. When you walk into a room, the unseen trembles. That's why your battles feel personal, because they are. The enemy fears what you carry. He fears your voice, your prayer, your resilience. But heaven is not nervous. Heaven is confident. God has already written the ending of this war, and you are standing on the winning side. So hold your ground. Even when nothing seems to change, keep standing. Speak light when all you see is shadow. Pray when you feel least able to. Every breath you take in faith is a victory shout in the spirit realm. You are not merely surviving, you are disarming darkness by refusing to surrender. When you feel the pressure increase, lift your head and remind yourself this is the sound of chains breaking. Every strike against you is actually proof that the enemy recognizes your rising power. You are becoming the very thing he feared you would become: fully awakened. And now, as you read this, let your spirit respond in agreement. Not with fear, but with faith. Type "I stand firm" below. That phrase is more than a comment, it's a declaration. It says, "I understand the war, but I also know the outcome." It is your way of standing in the open field of battle and declaring that you will not retreat. Heaven fights beside you. The invisible war may rage, but the outcome has already been sealed in glory. Heaven's confirmation always comes softly at first. Chosen one, like light through a window at dawn. Then as your heart begins to open, that light grows stronger until it fills the entire room of your spirit. You have been seeing signs lately: repeating numbers, unshakable dreams, sudden peace after prayer. These are not coincidences. They are heaven's fingerprints, left gently upon your timeline so you cannot mistake his presence. You see, God rarely shouts, he confirms. When he repeats a message, it's not because you missed it, but because he wants to make it unmistakable. Heaven has no interest in confusing you. It wants to comfort you into courage. That's why certain words have been following you, why old prayers are being answered in new ways. Every sign, every repeated whisper, every familiar scripture appearing again, they're all heaven's way of saying, "Yes, this is me." The apostle wrote in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 13, verse 1. Every matter must be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. That is what's happening now. Heaven has sent witness after witness, scripture, silence, circumstance, all harmonizing to form a single truth. You are seen, known, and still chosen. And when you feel that assurance rise in you, it changes how you move. You no longer rush. You flow. You no longer chase. You trust. That inner knowing becomes your compass, and every confirmation becomes a step forward in confidence. This is what heaven intended for you to walk, not by pressure, but by peace. And yet, even as heaven confirms, it also invites you to partner in the flow of its message. When you like, share, or subscribe, it's not about numbers or algorithms. It's about weaving your candlelight into a constellation. Imagine each act as a spark that joins thousands of others, forming a canopy of light over a world that has forgotten what hope looks like. Each share becomes a shooting star across someone's midnight, whispering, "You're not alone." Now, about giving, let's speak gently, heart to heart. Think of this space as a river that carries living water. Every time you donate, you are not paying for the stream, you're adding your drop to keep the river flowing. You are saying, "Let this current reach more thirsty souls." The beauty of it is that the river never asks, it simply invites. The choice to give is sacred because it's voluntary. When a farmer plants a seed, he doesn't do it because someone demands it. He does it because he believes in seasons. To give is to believe in seasons, that the light you've received today will become someone else's harvest tomorrow. So if your spirit ever nudges you, give not as duty but as worship. Let your support be a love note written in invisible ink, read only by heaven. Your like, your share, your subscription, your offering, they are all petals of the same flower. Each one opens a little wider when it's touched by gratitude. And gratitude, chosen one, is how heaven multiplies miracles. So if this word has brought warmth to your soul, pass that warmth on. Let the message move freely through your hands as it did through mine. The more light we allow to flow, the more darkness loses its grip. Together we become a chorus of small flames forming one great fire, unforced, uncoerced, beautifully voluntary. Heaven's confirmation is clear. You are part of something living, something breathing, something divine. The signs you've seen are not the end. They are the beginning of your next unfolding, and every act of kindness, of sharing, of giving, is another yes echoing heaven's message forward. Your delayed obedience ends here. Chosen one. This is the threshold moment, the quiet but trembling line between almost and finally. For too long, you've carried confirmation without completion, understanding without action. Heaven has watched patiently as fear negotiated with faith, as hesitation dressed itself up as wisdom. But the time for weighing the options has ended. The window of mercy is still open, but it will not stay open forever. God's voice has not changed, but its tone has. The season of whispers has become the season of commands. You've been shown enough to move. Now heaven waits for movement. It's not about knowing every detail, it's about trusting the direction. When God says go, He doesn't promise clarity. He promises company. You've delayed because of fear of failure, of being misunderstood, of losing what's familiar. But every step of obedience will cost something. Every calling demands surrender. What feels like loss is often the sound of chains falling. Your hesitation is not protecting you, it's prolonging your wilderness. Heaven does not want perfection, it wants participation. The Apostle Samuel once said to King Saul, as recorded in the first book of Samuel, chapter 15, verse 22, "To obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of rams. There is no substitute for obedience. You cannot trade it for good intentions, prayers, or promises." Heaven is not impressed by words, it moves at the sound of action. Saul offered sacrifice but withheld obedience, and the throne was taken from him not because God wanted to punish him, but because partial obedience is still disobedience. Chosen one, you've been standing at the edge for too long, praying for another sign, when the sign was already given. The repeated word, the second message, the persistent stirring. You have felt it in your chest, that holy urgency that refuses to let you rest in comfort. That is not anxiety, that is the sound of heaven saying, now, you are not being called into chaos, you are being called into alignment. When you finally obey, everything that once resisted you will begin to cooperate. The universe recognizes obedience because obedience carries divine authority. Doors don't open because of who you are, they open because obedience walks before you. Think of Jonah. When he delayed, the sea raged. When he obeyed, a city was saved. Your obedience carries consequences for others too. Someone's deliverance is connected to your yes. Someone's breakthrough depends on your movement. The weight of your calling is not meant to crush you, but to remind you of your impact. Heaven doesn't repeat messages just to comfort, it repeats them to commission. And even now, mercy still stands beside you. God's voice is not angry, it's urging. He is not shouting to scold you, he's shouting to save you from stagnation. Every minute spent in hesitation is a minute stolen from destiny. You are equipped. Even if you don't feel it, you are ready, even if fear whispers otherwise. This is your moment to step forward, not in panic, but in peace. When you move in obedience, the ground itself will adjust to hold you. Heaven does not call without providing footing. The road will appear as you walk, so take a breath. Chosen one. Let go of your fear of doing it wrong. You cannot misstep when your heart is yielded. Heaven is not grading your precision, it's blessing your intention. Delay no longer. The season has shifted, and obedience has become the bridge to your next. The waiting has served its purpose. The lessons have matured. The second call has come. Now it is time to move. This is the moment of prophetic activation. Chosen one. Heaven is not only speaking, it is releasing. The air around you carries a different vibration now. What was once delayed is being reopened. What was once locked is being reintroduced. You can feel it, that subtle shift in your spirit, as if the atmosphere itself knows that mercy has turned into movement. You thought some doors were closed forever. You thought the opportunity was lost, that you had missed your timing. But heaven says otherwise. This second message comes carrying a different fragrance, one of restoration. It doesn't come to remind you of failure. It comes to rewrite your future. There is a new oil being poured upon your head, not because you earned it, but because grace has decided it's time. You are walking into the era of again chosen, again trusted, again called. You will not return to the same place you left, you will return transformed. This is not a rerun of your past, it's a relaunch of your purpose. As it is written in the book of Revelation, chapter 21, verse 5. Behold, I make all things new. Those words are for you now. Not some things. Not the easy things, all things. The very areas where you once failed will now become the places where you flourish. The same people who saw your collapse will witness your comeback. You are proof that God's mercy outruns human mistakes. Prophetic activation means that heaven begins to breathe into the still places. Dead dreams start twitching with life. Ideas you buried in doubt begin to glow again. It's like embers under ashes suddenly catching fire, reminding you that what God ignites never truly dies. The second calling is not about starting over, it's about starting right. You are being given a divine do-over, but this time, with wisdom born from wounds. Heaven trusts you differently now because you've walked through lessons that taught you reverence. This activation doesn't make you proud, it makes you humble. You now understand that grace is not a trophy, it's a tool. Chosen one. This is a sacred moment. Heaven is stretching its hand toward you again, not to test you, but to empower you. The spirit that once whispered is now roaring, and that roar carries your name. You are stepping into prophetic alignment, where timing, talent, and truth meet. When heaven calls your name twice, it's not an echo, it's a coronation. Look around your life. Signs of renewal are everywhere. Doors that resisted are softening. People who left are being replaced with purpose. Even your thoughts are shifting. That's not coincidence, it's calibration. Heaven is aligning your life with its divine coordinates. If this word resonates in the deepest parts of you, don't let it pass silently. Let heaven see your agreement, even in a simple sign. Comment 333 below as your prophetic act of faith. The number 333 is a divine reminder of the Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit moving in complete unity. It symbolizes alignment, confirmation, and divine completeness. When you type it, you're declaring, Heaven, I am in agreement with your perfect order. I receive this restoration fully. Let that declaration rise from your spirit. The second message wasn't sent to remind you of delay. It was sent to deliver you into destiny. Heaven has reopened what you thought was lost, and all you need to do now is walk forward into the new. The breaking of silence has begun. Chosen one. You can feel it deep within your chest, the stirring, the weight, the trembling between your ribs. It's the sound of heaven loosening your tongue. The time for quiet endurance has ended for too long. You've carried truths inside that burned like fire yet found no words. But now, heaven says, speak. There was a season when silence was holy. Heaven needed you hidden, learning to listen before you led. Your stillness was training, not punishment. Every time you wanted to speak and couldn't, every time your words died in your throat, you were being taught the sacred rhythm of timing. God was shaping your tone so that when you finally spoke, your voice would carry weight, not noise. But now the silence is breaking. The same voice that once whispered in the night is now roaring through your spirit. You will find yourself saying things with a boldness you didn't know you possessed. Heaven is turning your testimony into a trumpet. You will speak, and the atmosphere will shift. People will feel it before they understand it. As it was written by the prophet Isaiah, chapter 6, verse 8. Then said I, Here am I, send me. That is the posture heaven is waiting for. You are no longer hiding in the shadows of self-doubt. The very thing that once silenced you, fear, rejection, ridicule, is the platform God will now use to amplify your voice. Your past pain has become a microphone, and your obedience is the power running through it. The breaking of silence doesn't mean shouting louder than others, it means speaking with heaven's authority. You are being called to release words that heal, confront, and awaken. Some will listen, some will resist, but all will feel the truth. When you speak under divine prompting, it's not just conversation, it's creation. The same spirit that hovered over the waters in Genesis now hovers over your words. For years, you have prayed, Lord, use me, and wondered why heaven seemed slow to answer. But God was not withholding opportunity. He was building capacity. He was making sure your words would come from purity, not pain from revelation, not reaction. And now, after the silence, your voice carries the fragrance of surrender. You are no longer speaking for God, you are speaking from God. Do not underestimate the sound of your obedience. Even a whisper released under anointing can split darkness like lightning. Every word you speak from this place will carry weight in the spirit realm. You are being trusted with divine vocabulary. The words you utter will not simply describe, they will decree. Chosen one. The world needs the sound that only you can make. Heaven didn't preserve your voice for popularity, it preserved it for power. There are people waiting for your story to break their silence. What you've survived is the language they understand. Your vulnerability will become their doorway to healing. The silence served its purpose. Now the speaking begins. You are not returning as the same person who once lost their words. You are returning as a messenger whose voice has been tempered in divine fire. When you open your mouth now, it won't just be sound, it will be spirit. Let your words flow like rivers over dry ground. Let truth roll out of you like thunder that both shakes and sanctifies. The silence has ended because heaven has found in you a vessel it can trust to speak without distortion. Go on, chosen one. Speak not to be heard, but to heal. The breaking of silence is the sound of your anointing being born. The weight of glory is descending. Chosen one. It comes quietly, not like a rush of emotion, but like light settling on the shoulders of your soul. You have been faithful in silence, obedient in confusion, and steadfast in storms, and heaven has noticed. What you feel pressing upon you now is not burden, but blessing. Glory carries weight because it is real. It bends you, not to break you, but to teach you reverence. You've prayed for power, but power without humility destroys. That's why heaven gave you time in the hidden place to strengthen your spine before placing the crown. Glory is heavy because it must rest on something sturdy. Every trial you endured was secretly building the foundation that could carry what is now descending upon you. You are being clothed, not in fame or ease, but in spiritual authority, the kind that cannot be shaken. As written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 60, verse 1, Arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. This verse is not a metaphor for you, it's a manifestation. You are walking into the season where the invisible becomes visible. What was once only potential is now presence. The light within you is no longer hiding behind wounds. It has matured into fire, and fire, when pure, does not consume, it illuminates. The weight of glory will feel strange at first. It will make you quieter, gentler, slower to speak. You will sense that heaven is near, that your words carry consequence, that even your silence begins to influence the atmosphere. You will realize that anointing is not performance, it's posture. The more glory rests on you, the less you need to prove anything. Glory doesn't argue, it radiates. And yet, with this weight comes responsibility. The same presence that exalts you will test you. It will reveal pride before the world does. It will whisper correction when applause grows loud. This is the holy tension of being chosen to carry divine fire in fragile flesh. You must walk softly, speak wisely, love deeply. Heaven will not give you visibility to entertain, it gives you visibility to reflect. You are becoming a mirror of divine nature, and mirrors must stay clean to reflect clearly. Guard your spirit against bitterness, comparison, and vanity. The moment you begin to think the light is yours, the weight of glory becomes unbearable. But when you remember that it is all Him through you, the weight turns into worship. Chosen one. Glory is not something you put on, it's something you become. Every act of obedience adds brilliance to your light. Every surrendered moment polishes the mirror of your soul. You are not carrying this presence to impress. You are carrying it to transform. When you walk into rooms now, peace will follow you. People will sense it before they know your name. That is what glory does. It announces heaven quietly. And when the days grow heavy and you feel the magnitude of what you carry, do not ask to be released from it. Ask only for more strength to bear it well. The same God who placed the mantle will uphold it. The weight of glory will not crush you, it will complete you. This is what you were made for, to stand beneath heaven's light and not burn, but blaze. The refining was for this. The waiting was for this. The glory has come, and it rests upon you like morning light after a long night. You have carried sorrow, now you will carry splendor. Heaven's mandate has been released, chosen one. The command is clear: move, not tomorrow, not someday, now. You have been prepared through silence, refined through pain, and awakened through repetition. What began as a whisper has grown into a steady voice inside you. Go forward. This is not a random push, it's divine propulsion. When God says move, it is because the ground beneath you has finished teaching its lessons. The season you were standing in has served its purpose. Now, every delay you once despised becomes the bridge that carries you into new territory. The same ground that felt heavy yesterday is the launching pad for your destiny today. Remember what Jesus said in the Gospel of Mark, chapter 16, verse 15. Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. This is not just a command, it's a commissioning. You are not being asked to run aimlessly. You are being invited into divine partnership. To move with heaven is to breathe in rhythm with eternity. When God moves, He takes His chosen along. But even as you prepare to move, understand that this isn't about grandeur or noise. Some movements are quiet. Some revolutions begin with a whisper of love, a single act of kindness, or a message shared in faith. Sometimes movement looks like stillness that listens for the next instruction. Heaven's mandate is less about speed and more about sensitivity. And beloved, when you sense this message stirring your spirit, remember the way light travels through the world is by reflection. When you like this message, you are holding up a mirror to heaven's words. When you share, you are letting that mirror face another heart in need of light. Each reflection multiplies illumination. You are not promoting a voice, you are spreading a vision. Every comment you leave becomes a footprint, a record that light passed this way. Write from your heart below, even a few simple words of agreement, and imagine them as seeds you plant in invisible soil. Someone passing by later may find that seed and discover faith blooming from your courage to speak. And when you feel the nudge to stay connected, to subscribe, understand that it's not about following a page. It's about following a path. The flow of messages from heaven is like a river, sometimes calm, sometimes rushing, but always life-giving. By staying connected, you are choosing to drink from that stream again when your soul thirsts. Now, about giving, let's speak soul to soul. Imagine this space as a sanctuary built of words. Every message, every whisper, every sentence that reaches another heart is a candle burning in that temple. When you donate, you are not paying for fire, you are bringing oil for the flame. You are saying, let this light keep reaching those still lost in night. It is not asked as debt, but offered as devotion. Every act of support, no matter how small, becomes part of the rhythm of heaven's generosity flowing through you. And heaven always multiplies generosity. It turns single drops into rivers, single candles into constellations. Giving is not loss, it's participation in the miracle of continuity. So as you move with this mandate, Move freely. Like, if this message mirrored what's already in your spirit, share it. If your heart whispers that someone else might be waiting for the same confirmation, leave your words below like small offerings of light. Subscribe if your soul feels at home here, and give only if love leads your hand. Nothing here is demanded. Everything here is invitation, because love never forces, it flows. And when love flows through you, heaven moves through you. The mandate is clear. Chosen one. Rise, shine, and move in rhythm with the one who called you twice. The sealing of the chosen is taking place. Chosen one. You can sense it, even if you cannot name it, the strange calm that settles over you after the storm, the quiet confidence that begins to replace your fear. Heaven has been marking those who endured, those who refused to give up when everything inside them wanted to. You are among them. The seal is not a symbol of perfection. It is a signature of belonging. You have walked through testing fires and sacred silences, and now heaven places its mark upon your spirit. This mark cannot be seen by the eyes of men, but all of creation recognizes it. It is protection, authority, and peace woven together. Once sealed, Makkah, your identity in the spirit becomes untouchable. You may still face battles, but no battle can own you. The Apostle Paul wrote in the letter to the Ephesians, chapter 1, up on verse 13, "In whom also after that ye believed, ye were sealed with that Holy Spirit of promise." That promise is not distant, it is present, breathing through your life even now. The seal does not mean life becomes easy, it means life becomes guided. The same Spirit that marked you also maps your journey. Even when you wander, the seal draws you back. When you fall, the seal whispers your name until you rise. It is heaven's way of saying, "You are mine, chosen one." Think of this seal as divine ownership that liberates instead of confines. You are no longer defined by where you've been, who misunderstood you, or what you lost. The seal overrides every earthly label. It says, redeemed, appointed, sent. No force, no voice, no accusation can unmark what heaven has claimed. This moment is not about outward display. It's an inward covenant. Something in you will begin to shift. Peace will become your new default. You will notice that situations which once terrified you now meet a different version of you. The seal brings stability. It silences fear because it testifies louder than chaos. The sealed ones carry an unusual calm in a frantic world. They walk through storms without losing their step, not because the waves are smaller, but because their anchor is stronger. This is where you now stand, anchored in something eternal. The world may shake, but you will not. There is also authority in the seal. Heaven trusts you with influence that goes beyond human recognition. Your words will start to carry weight, not because you shout louder, but because they come from a place of divine commission. Wherever you go, atmospheres will adjust, not to you, but to the one whose mark you bear. Do not be surprised if people sense peace around you before they know your story. That is the fragrance of the seal, unspoken yet unmistakable. You have become a carrier of heaven's atmosphere, a walking reminder that the kingdom is near. Every time you forgive when others would have fought, every time you love where hatred could have lived, you prove the seal is real. The enemy recognizes sealed ones too. That's why opposition intensifies at times. It's not random, it's reaction. The mark you carry identifies you as threat to darkness. But take heart, sealed ones cannot be owned by fear. Every attack becomes an opportunity to display endurance. Every storm reveals how strong your roots have grown. And when the noise of life swells again, remember you are not fighting for victory, you're standing from victory. The seal has already written your ending in heaven's ink. What was once uncertain is now secured. You are sealed, chosen one not with ink but with eternity. And from this moment on, your life will speak peace without you having to say a word. Heaven rejoices again, chosen one. The second message has completed its mission. What began as a whisper now resounds as a symphony, and the very heavens echo with celebration. You have heard, understood, and responded. This was never about mere awareness, it was about awakening. You stand now as one who has crossed from confusion into clarity, from survival into purpose. Heaven sings not because you are perfect, but because you finally said yes. There is a joy that only heaven knows, a joy that erupts when a soul realigns with its divine design. Angels understand this sound. They recognize it as the melody of reconciliation between Creator and creation. You may not hear it with your physical ears, but your spirit feels it, the subtle lightness, the deep exhale, the sense that everything is finally falling into order. That is the sound of heaven rejoicing over you, as written in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 15, verse 10. There is joy in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner that repenteth. That joy isn't just for the lost returning. It is also for the chosen remembering. You have remembered who you are, and heaven celebrates that. Every delay, every tear, every lonely prayer, they were not wasted. They became the soil where your obedience took root, and now what once looked like ruin has become resurrection. Heaven's joy over you is not temporary, it's eternal. Joy is not a fleeting emotion, it's the atmosphere of completion. When heaven finishes a work, it sings. You are that song right now. Your obedience, your surrender, your willingness to listen the second time, these have become harmony in heaven's orchestra. You are not background music. You are a divine note in God's unfolding melody. And now begins a quieter chapter. The intensity of awakening gives way to the rhythm of walking. You no longer chase signs, you carry them. You no longer seek confirmation, you are confirmation. The message that once came to you will now flow through you. Heaven does not waste vessels, it transforms them into messengers. You have become what you once needed. In the days ahead, you will notice small miracles, conversations aligning perfectly, doors opening softly, peace arriving before you ask. These are the signs of divine partnership. Heaven rejoices not only because you heard, but because you've been entrusted to carry the sound further. You will become the echo that awakens others. Chosen one, know this: heaven's joy is not loud because it needs to be heard. It is deep because it knows what could have been lost. Twice heaven sent the same message, and twice it waited. But this time, you responded. That single act shifted your spiritual lineage, that you are not just one who was called, you are one who answered. Carry this joy gently, let it shape your tone, your actions, your outlook. Let it remind you that divine celebration always follows surrender. You have become a vessel heaven can trust, a light earth can recognize, and a reminder that grace always gives second chances. The message has been delivered, the call has been answered, the circle is complete. Heaven rejoices again, not because you found the message, but because the message found you. And somewhere beyond sight, angels mark your name in radiant ink, whispering, the second call was not wasted, another flame has awakened beneath heaven's breath. Now the earth itself exhales relief, sensing that one more bearer of light has remembered, chosen, sealed, and finally aligned with divine rhythm. Beloved chosen one, if this journey has stirred something in your spirit, if even one sentence felt like it was written for you, pause for a moment. Breathe. Feel the peace that now lingers in your chest. That stillness is heaven's gentle nod, saying, you heard me well. This message was never meant to end here. It was meant to continue through you. When you like this message, you are not just reacting, you are affirming that light found you. When you share, you're letting that same light travel into someone else's darkness. Imagine it as opening a window in a room where another heart has forgotten how to breathe. And if your heart has something to say, leave a comment below. Your words may become the echo that tells another wandering soul. You're not alone. Heaven still speaks. Even a single line, written sincerely, can become a thread of grace connecting unseen hearts across oceans. When you subscribe, you are not signing up for noise, you are choosing to stay near the flame. Every new message becomes another spark sent to those still asleep, and your presence helps that fire spread quietly, beautifully, without force. And if one day your spirit whispers to donate, do it as worship, not as duty. Think of it as laying a small stone on the path that others will walk barefoot toward awakening. You are not paying for words, you are sustaining a sanctuary where heaven keeps speaking. Every act of giving is a candle placed in someone else's night. No pressure, no demand, only invitation. This is what divine partnership looks like, light passing gently from one soul to another. So, chosen one, if this message became a mirror to your own journey, let it keep reflecting. Like, share, write, stay, give only as your heart leads. That is how heaven's voice continues to move softly, freely through willing hearts.